Hello and welcome to Daily Dose Radio, a 5-minute-a-day podcast studying the Psalms verse by verse, recorded here in the dining room of the Bible Bistro, located in Sharonville, Ohio. Hey there, friend. Welcome back to Daily Dose Radio here in the Bible Bistro. Well, today in the Bible Bistro and all this week, we're looking at Psalm 85, 13 verses. It's lovely. I call this the kissing psalm, because we have some people kissing in here. So why not call it a kissing psalm? This is beautiful. It's a beautiful prayer. It's another psalm of the sons of Korah. We saw them last week. We talked about the sons of Korah last week with Psalm 84. So this week, Psalm 85, we have the sons of Korah again. This is of the choir master of the sons of Korah, a psalm. So they've made another one here, and it's just lovely. There are lots of things that are going on in this psalm. We'll talk about all of them as we go forward. One Selah, which divides the intro from the body of the psalm. So we'll look at that. And so why don't we just read today? We'll begin today with verses 1 and 2. Lord, thou hast been favorable unto thy land. Thou hast brought back the captivity of Jacob. Thou hast forgiven the iniquity of thy people. Thou hast covered all their sin. Selah. See, this is what the Lord does. He is favorable. He returns us. He forgives us. He covers all sin. This is what he wants to do, friend. This is what he wants to do for you. Have you called on the Lord Jesus yet for salvation? Because, that's what he wants to do for you. He doesn't want to judge you. Why do people always say that God's going around with a big stick and he wants to judge people? He does not. That's his curious work. His regular everyday job is showing mercy and forgiving. He doesn't want to judge. Judgment is strange to him. He wants to show mercy. And so that's one of the things that we find here in this passage is that God is bringing his people back. You notice right there in verse 1, the land is mentioned. You've been favorable unto thy land. Remember, the land is part of the promise. It was a specific part of the promise to Abraham. And so the people being in the land was very, very important. And so they were taken from the land in both the exile into Egypt or the sojourning in Egypt, the exile into Babylon, later on, and that was just a horrible thing. It was like ripping the heart out. And so the land is very important to the people because it is tied to the promise that God gave to Abraham. And you'll notice that the Lord has been favorable to the land. He's bringing the people back. So the land has suffered, in a sense, because the promised people were gone from it. You've brought back the captivity of Jacob. You've forgiven the iniquity of thy people, and you've covered all their sins. That's just so beautiful. Isn't that wonderful? One of the things that we're going to track throughout this psalm is the pronouns, because I call it a pronoun dance that's going on in here. And we begin right here. You have your land, you brought back, you have forgiven, your people, you have covered. So you see how often the pronoun is used here. Now we begin with the antecedent, which is Lord, right there, the very first thing. Lord, you have been favorable unto your land. The land is called his, people are called his, captivity of Jacob is called his. So he is the one who's doing all this work, and we're going to watch this pronoun, the second person singular pronoun, sort of dance and interplay with other pronouns as we go down through here. And then when we get down to the bottom, I think it's in verse 10. Yeah, beginning there in verse 10. No, it's in verse 8. You'll notice that we go from you to his or him. So the little more distant there, because we're not speaking directly to him, but we're speaking about him. And so we'll watch those pronouns interact throughout the course of this psalm here. All right, so join me tomorrow, and we'll pick up with verse 3 here on Daily Dose Radio. Thanks for listening to Daily Dose Radio. For more fresh and delicious Bible studies, podcasts, books, and more, check out the Bible Bistro online and on YouTube. Join me again next time for Daily Dose Radio.